Hello and a warm welcome to Federal Special Program Capital Beat. The crisis on Palestine-Israel conflict is deepening day by day, and New Delhi has been doing a balancing act where the Ministry for External Affairs had reiterated its position on this particular issue, saying that they will want a direct negotiation on a viable and sovereign Palestine, which can peacefully coexist with Israel. But before that, Prime Minister had put out two posts on X, which was formerly known as Twitter, where he lent a unilateral support to Israel, and people criticized it a lot. But now, with Israel's latest demand that more than 1 million Gaza residents must evacuate as it continues to pound the city and plan a ground offensive, so does that make New Delhi's balancing policy more complicated? Joining me now is veteran author and strategic and foreign policy analyst Seshadri Chari. Mr. Chari, thank you so much for joining on the Federal. And the first question, which I really want to ask you is that was it in a good taste, the kind of post which Prime Minister put out on the 7th of October, and then he put out another post on 10th, where he condemned terrorism. He did not condemn Netanyahu, but he just spoke about the terror act. And a lot of policy analysts criticize this fact that, New Delhi's stated position always has been to do a balancing act, but that balancing act with Prime Minister's post somewhere got derailed. What would you really say to that, sir?
I think it was absolutely important for the Prime Minister to put out that tweet. Personally, I believe that what the Prime Minister did was very correct. And the world knows India only through the Prime Minister. So, and if you go by the kind of the brutality of the attack that Hamas carried out, it was no doubt a terror attack. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Hamas just uses the veneer of power that it has in Gaza Strip only to conceal its terror activities. Ever since its formation, Hamas has mounted a number of attacks on Israel. So I'm not going into the merits and demerits of what Israel would have done in Gaza Strip. That is a different story. We can come to it later. But what is important is going by the brutality and savage attack that Hamas carried out. It was absolutely necessary to condemn Hamas as a terrorist organization and extend all support to Israel. So what the Prime Minister did was absolutely correct and very, very important. In these issues, you cannot wait. These are all important international developments where you have to come out with what you feel important and immediate. Had I been in that place or anybody else in that place would have reacted in the same manner as far as the velocity and as far as the brutality of the attack is concerned. So we should not forget that.
Yeah, Mr. Chari, Prime Minister's first post, which he put out on 7th of October, that was completely understandable that he did it with alacrity and something which was needed as an immediate thing. But by that time, Israel had not begun its counteroffensive. But after Israel began its airstrikes, then also Prime Minister put out the second tweet where he condemned Hamas, but then people were also expecting that he would condemn Netanyahu. But he did not do that. And after a gap of 5 days, then MEA comes, with the first official statement on the war, which it makes. So does that make India's position a little untenable? And people do talk about the fact that there is a divergence of views in what Prime Minister put out and also in what MEA stated.
No, there is no difference between what the Prime Minister stated and what the MEA has stated. What happens is the immediate reaction has to be quick and to the very large extent in keeping with the brutality of the incident that has taken place. But at the same time, we have to also inform the world that this is not a change in India's policy. Since the formation of Israel in 1948, India has always held that there has to be a peaceful and negotiated settlement for all the conflicts, including Israel-Palestine conflict. Now, what happened in these 75 years is a different story. But what is important is India had to immediately recognize the fact that a terrorist attack has been carried out on Israel. A, B, they have to also inform Israel that in this hour of urgency and catastrophe that has happened, we are with the people of Israel and the government of Israel. This is what even the opposition in Israel has done.
No, sir, but while India says and while India expresses its solidarity with Israel, but Israel is also doing what Hamas has done.
No. A retaliation and taking recourse to protecting your sovereignty, your people, and getting your hostages back, saving the lives of your citizens, is not equal to what the Hamas did. We should never equate the government of Israel with that of Hamas. Hamas is not a government. Tomorrow, if Lashkar-e-Toiba, God forbid, if Lashkar-e-Toiba or any other terror institution or outfit attacks any part of India, will you compare that to the government of India? Government of India reserves the right to take recourse to the attack that has been carried on its territory. Similarly, Israel has got every right to take action, a retaliatory action against Hamas, which is not equal to PA, what is called as Palestinian Authority. So we should always remember, it is
Right,
not an attack. It is not an attack on Palestinian Authority.
right.
Israel has taken action against a terrorist organization. If you want one more example, let me give you that also. We had seen such incidents taking place in Sri Lanka. There were attacks on Sri Lankan government institutions. There were attacks on the people of Sri Lanka. Even Tamil leaders were liquidated and killed. That is what Hamas has done to Palestinian people also. In 2014, Hamas carried out mass execution of even Palestinian leaders and Palestinian people, accusing them of being part of the Jewish lobby. Anyway, that's a different story. We will not go into
Mr.
that. But
Chari,
the
all what
example,
I'm saying is,
wait. Let me
right,
complete my example. Now,
yes.
when Colombo takes action against LTTE, will you compare that action as against Colombo versus LTTE? Government of Colombo versus government of LTTE, will you say that? No. LTTE was a terrorist organization, and in the entire world, LTTE is the only terrorist organization that has been finally liquidated forever. Anyway, go ahead.
No, but Mr. Chari, there were many people who, said that Prime Minister's approach was very ill-advised. It was one-sided, and it looked lopsided because there are a lot of things at stake. Recently at G20, Prime Minister spoke so highly about this Middle East economic corridor. Then you have so many Muslim countries with whom you have good relations, and there was a feeling that Prime Minister's post upset the relations, completely as far as these Arab nations were concerned. And they felt bad about how Prime Minister put out the tweet.
Not at all. Not at all. See, these Muslim countries, we have been dealing with all these Muslim countries. Yes, it is true. In G20, we had proposed the idea of a linkage between India and Europe through Middle East. Middle East is an important area for us. And we also recognize the fact that there is an ongoing conflict between Israel and the rest of the so-called Arab world. There is nothing called Arab world. They are all independent Arab countries. There is nothing like Arab world as it is. But then this area, what we call Middle East and West Asia, it was when the British came, it was west of the Asia. Therefore, they said West Asia. But now we are referring to the area as Middle East. But that does not mean we have changed our outlook towards Middle East. We still require Middle East. It's an important area, and we want the conflict to end. The conflict is not between Israel and Hamas. Remember always, Hamas does not represent Palestine at all. Whatever Hamas has done, it has actually hurt the Palestinian cause. Therefore, we have to tell the Middle East countries also, they have all good friends and they have understood our idea about all this situation very well. And most of the Middle Eastern countries, including Jordan, Egypt, and even Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, have explicitly stated many times that Israel and Palestine will have to resolve their issues through negotiations. That is exactly what we are also saying.
No, but Mr. Chari, now just let's take the example of the latest demand which has been put out by Israel, where they are saying that 1 million people, the Gaza residents, should evacuate the place in 24 hours. Now, everybody on the earth knows that that's not possible given the densely populated small area it is. How will that be possible? There are people in hospitals, there are children at school. Now, how will that be possible? And can one condone to what Israel is doing at this point of time? Many people are saying what Israel is doing is almost like it's like a war crime.
No, it is a war. Israel has declared a war against Hamas, and all is fair in love and war. Therefore, if Israel has to win this war, it has to do and work out a strategy that suits its victory the best.
No, but does that
Israel
absolve
cannot,
him of all the
there cannot
accountability
be,
of killing the civilians?
there, if Hamas starts using the civilians as a shield against Israeli attack, then it is who needs to be blamed is not Israel, but Hamas. Remember, Hamas has still got Israeli hostages. And in order to keep these hostages and make them a pawn in their deal, Hamas is using civilians as a shield against Israeli attack. This is exactly what each and every terror organization in the world does. Therefore, once and for all, Hamas has to be liquidated. And if there are civilian casualties in this, it is very unfortunate. And that is why Israel is giving them time. The humanitarian consideration part of it is for the people of Gaza and not for Hamas. Hamas has put out a tweet and Hamas has informed Gaza should not be evacuated. That is exactly because Hamas wants to use the people of Gaza as a shield against Israel, which is absolutely deplorable, and it is the saddest part of this whole incident.
No, but Mr. Chari, given the time, the window period which they have given of 24 hours, that they must evacuate in 24 hours, don't you think that this is so illogical? People are going to carry all their luggage and move to a completely southern part of the city. And how will that be possible?
See, it's not the question of how it is going to be possible. People in Gaza who supported Hamas should have thought about it long back. A. B. It is not for Israel or India or US or anybody else to come into the picture now. In all these terror attacks, the tactics of the terrorists, the strategy that they use, remember one thing, terror attacks are nothing less than a war. Terror attacks are nothing less than a war, I repeat. Therefore, it is a war. And in this war, it is important for the people of Gaza to realize. And if people of Gaza have to save themselves, they can do it. There is no need for them to pick up their luggage and go. If they want to save their lives, even when there is an earthquake, people say, don't try to pick up your luggage. Just run out. If you are alive, you can do whatever you want. Similarly, in a case of an emergency in an aircraft, they announce, don't wait to pick up your laptop. Just quit the aircraft. This is a war, and war is an emergency situation. So if they are prudent enough to save their lives, that is what they should do.
So you are saying that there is no reason why one should condemn Israel at this point of time.
What is there to condemn? Have they carried out the kind of bombing that the US did in Japan in 1941? Are they doing this? Did the US give warning to Japanese people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? When there is a war, this is what you do. Israel has given them a warning. Israel has given them time to go save their lives. Israel is attacking Hamas. Israel is not attacking the Palestinians. What is there to condemn?
But Mr. Chari, in these difficult times, the impression which is going is, of course, as far as India's position is concerned, of course, we are seeing what is happening as far as the Israel-Gaza war is concerned. But talking particularly about India's stand, that there is a feeling that India is not thinking too much about Palestine, but there is an over-inclination for Israel. Would this be right at this point of time? If that kind of a perception is going out? And do we need to do more as far as that? Yes.
Listen, which country recognized Palestine first? Which was the country that recognized Palestine in the first place? Please tell me. Was it United Arab Emirates? Was it Saudi Arabia? Was it China? Was it Russia? Which country? India was the first country to recognize Palestine. India was the first country to give the highest civilian award to Yasser Arafat. India was the first country to tell Palestine that your legitimate rights should be granted. India has always, till 1992, India did not have diplomatic relations with Israel. But before that, we allowed the Palestinians to set up diplomatic office in Delhi. We have done for Palestine more than any of these Arab countries have done. We have done to Palestine much more than what these people who are paying lip sympathy to Palestinian cause are doing now. We have protected Palestinians much more than what the terrorist organization like Hamas is doing or Hezbollah is doing. So nobody should teach India as far as its Palestine policy is concerned. We are doing what was exactly to be done, but it was very important for India to start dealing with Israel on equal footing, because Israel is an important country for us, and Israel is one of the strongest country in East Asia, in West Asia, where our interests are much more than what other countries have.
But will
Therefore, it is
India,
important for us to do a balance, and we have said that, and we have exactly said that. When there was a time to condemn Hamas, we have done it. And when the time came to tell Israel and Palestine to sit down and talk to each other and negotiate for a peaceful settlement, we have done it. Therefore, there is nothing wrong that we have done as far as our foreign policy is concerned.
but Mr. Chari, that a country like India, and of course, I remember Prime Minister Narendra Modi was the first Prime Minister to even visit Palestine.
Palestine and Israel both.
Yes, Israel both. Then, as far as refugees are concerned, India has done a lot on that front also. All that is understood. But at this crucial hour, why cannot India, in very clear terms, talk about an independent Palestine homeland, or tell Israel that you have an expansionist policy? You've been occupying the place for so many decades, and it's time now to negotiate and talk peacefully. Why can't India use very clear words, to send out this message? Because a powerful country like India, India's words will really count at this point of time.
See, as a journalist, you are free to use as perfect a word as possible. As far as countries are concerned, foreign policy is not dictated by these words. Foreign policy should not be dictated by sentiments. Foreign policy should be dictated by our own self-interest. And the best self-interest that we can think of now is to reiterate our policy that has been there since the time of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, that both Israel and Palestine should talk to each other, negotiate, and come to a negotiated settlement for peace and progress. That is exactly what we have said, and there is no need to say anything more than this.
Right. Last one or two questions more, Mr. Chari, before I wind up the interview. There is a feeling that United Nations could intervene at this point of time. We see America, with an outright support for Israel right now. What can a body like United Nations do? People feel that United Nations is not doing enough in intervening at this point of time.
I think United Nations has not done enough as far as so many areas are concerned. If United Nations continues to behave like this, it will become another League of Nations. And then probably the world will have to junk United Nations and think of a third institution. After the League of Nations failed to stop the Second World War, the UN was born. Now we are in a very different situation. Even in the case of Russia-Ukraine conflict, the UN has not been able to do anything. There are so many flashpoints around the world, and in none of these flashpoints, the United Nations has not covered itself with glory as far as these conflicts are concerned. So therefore, it is very important for the United Nations to really do something as far as this conflict is concerned. But if the UN is not able to do it, it is for the other countries to sit up and do all these things. And fortunately, we are now moving towards a multilateral world order. And in this multilateral world order, countries like India are playing an important role. Therefore, India will probably play an important role as far as these flashpoints are concerned. But all this has to be done within the framework of national security and national solidarity and national interest.
So, what can India do? My final question to you is that at this point of time, with the crisis deepening day by day, we do not know when this war is going to end. What can India do at this point of time?
No, India will have to wait and watch how the situation develops. It is for Israel to take a call as far as Hamas is concerned. Hamas has been attacking Israel for a long time. Israel has been talking to Palestine. Palestine has also been talking to Israel. But if Hamas had not intervened in the manner that it has done, things would not have gone to such an extent. Therefore, the real culprit in this whole picture today is the Hamas, which is a terrorist organization. Therefore, that issue will have to be settled first. This is exactly like a scenario that I had earlier said as far as the Tamil population of East and North Sri Lanka is concerned vis-a-vis Colombo. This is exactly a situation similar to that. We wanted that issue to be settled, but we did not want a negotiated settlement between Colombo and LTTE, which is a terrorist organization. Similarly, we want a negotiated settlement between Israel and Palestinian Authority, but not between Israel and a terrorist organization. Israel will never talk to a terrorist organization. Tomorrow, if we insist that they should do it, Israel can also tell India to talk to a terrorist organization based out of Pakistan. Will you agree for it? Will you do that? If I ask you to make a deal with Taliban, will you do that? If I ask you to do a deal with Lashkar-e-Toiba, will you do that?
Do that? Yeah, I don't think
Will America talk to Al Qaeda? Remember, elected governments, sovereign governments should never negotiate with a terrorist organization. This will amount to giving strength to terrorism. And as a world, we are against terrorism. Terrorism in any form, in any part of the world, should be condemned. This is the message that India has given out.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chari. It was lovely having you on the program. And one appeal to the viewers who are watching this interview, subscribe to our channel, send us your feedback, and stay tuned to the Federal.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.